Benson. I'm a coach and strategist, and I have a company called Marketing Power Hour and another one called SDG Changemakers. I'm a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, and I'm also a chartered PR practitioner as well. So as I move you guys around the screen, so today, as I said, we're going to talk about in 2021, and we'll have a look at some of the trends, best practices, and how to engage with SEO yourselves. I don't know if you know, but last year Google announced that their plans to experience was starting, and that's actually starting about now. So there's going to be a gradual rollout of updates which will affect SEO. So as website owners, it's really important that you know how to improve page experience for your users, or at least know how to talk to your agency about doing so. A little bit about the page experience, which we will jump into a little bit more later. It's based on what Google is calling core web vitals. And this measures the speed and the usability of a web page. So it looks at metrics like page load, responsiveness of your pages, interactivity, and whether or not content layers actually shift around the page.
Claire, we're just losing you slightly. We've lost you altogether now. Oh. I think she just must have a problem with her internet. Bear with me 2 minutes, guys. I'm sure she'll sign back in. The joys of weak internet. Bear with. Sorry about this. Let me just see if she's coming back in. She's signed out altogether now, so she must be just signing back in.
Local search is playing a bigger role, and obviously data and analytics. So many of you will be familiar of the term SEO, and you'll have heard about keyword research. What I also want to do from my perspective is also help you understand that SEO is also part of a broader marketing and communications mix. So by that, I mean that SEO can't really be done in isolation, but it has to contribute to your much wider marketing and comms plan. This diagram I absolutely love. I think some of you might have seen it before. It basically lays out all the different marketing comms tactics that you can take and how they all interlink. So you'll see the bright blue line here, which is all about content marketing. And this relates to a lot of the tactics that we're going to be talking about with SEO. So they're things like on-page SEO, blogging, making sure that you've actually got a content calendar which is attributed to your keywords. Really important, storytelling, which we're going to get into, making sure that you've got testimonials, case studies, really good quality content, and that you're also engaging in backlinks and off-page SEO as well. So where do we actually start? If you're new to marketing, or you haven't worked out your objectives in terms of your marketing and communications, I really think that you need to start at the beginning. So one of the really useful frameworks that I always show my clients and participants is a framework called SOSTAC, originally created by a UK-based marketer, PR Smith, in the 90s. You can actually find the book online for less than £4. And I really do think it's a well worth investment for you just to get your head around what SOSTAC means. And it really does help in terms of it's customer centered, and it helps you to review your current situation and things that you need to be looking at. And it helps you guide you when you're setting your objectives. It can be used for overall marketing comms planning. It can be used for digital sprint processes. And if you've already got your marketing comms objectives in place, you can use it purely for your SEO strategy as well. So we're just going to bob into just a few elements around SOSTAC, which is really going to be around your objectives. So just reviewing what objectives are and having a look at some brand before we jump into SEO. So as you will have most of you heard about, it's SMART objectives. So it's certainly really important when you're looking at your SEO or you're looking at your wider marketing and comms that you know where you actually want to go and you know what you're actually trying to do. So they have to be SMART and they must relate to your overall business goals. So for SEO, a SMART objective might be based on increasing your web traffic, for instance, over a set period of time by a set percentage. Or it might be to increase your Google ranking for a particular service by a set amount over a set period of time as well. The other thing that I would like you to think about too with regards to SEO is that SEO really does involve storytelling and storytelling to the right people. So you can go and collect lots of keywords and key phrases, but if you're not actually telling a story, then you're not giving your clients or prospective customers a compelling reason to actually want to engage with you. So I've got a couple of questions for you to consider as we're going through. Currently, are you actually attracting the type of customers you really want to work with? And are those customers approaching you for products and services that you actually want to be known for? So bear those questions in mind as we go through the rest of the presentation. Telling your story is all about having a compelling brand. And as I've said, your keyword research will link into your storytelling to make sure that you're actually reaching the right customers at the right time. So as part of your storytelling and SEO strategy, you also need to make sure that you've got a really clear proposition, that you know how your products and services are going to stand out from the crowd to attract those customers. And again, this will help you when you're doing your keyword research. Now, some of you might have heard about Simon Sinek. So this is around branding. So as a point on creating a compelling branding, you really got to sort of assess and look at your understanding around your purpose and your why. Often we're really good at explaining what we do and how we do it, which is really useful. But to build that emotional connection with our prospective clients with regards to our content, that quality content that Google is looking for, we have to delve in a lot deeper, which is why understanding your why or your purpose will help you build quality content as you're going through your SEO plan. So some of the things that you need to have a think about and review in terms of your why is, how do your products or services actually improve the world? What drives you to run this business? And what are you passionate about or gets you emotional? These will help you define your why and tell a much more compelling story to prospective clients. So to try and explain the point in a little bit more detail, this is how Apple described itself. So as we all know, Apple sells computers. But how do they do it? They do it through beautifully designed and simple to use equipment. And their why is that everything they do, they believe in challenging the status quo and thinking differently. So they're trying to create that emotional connection with their clients whenever they're storytelling. You'll all be aware and familiar with vision, mission, and brand values. So I won't go into too much detail. But it's really important that before you get into your SEO planning, that you're clear on these as well. So the qualities and the principles that your business actually stands for, they're the reason why people will buy from you. So they might find you in Google searches, but will they actually want to engage with your content? So your values and their principles need to resonate with theirs, and you should see your vision, mission, and brand values as a compass that basically guides your brand story, your actions and behaviors, and the decision-making processes. And they all must be reflected within your marketing activities, or your digital marketing activities. So this is an example of Virgin. So they have 6 brand values, and their proposition is about being an edgy brand. So their values are around being curious, heartfelt service, surprising, red hot, smart, disruptive, and straight up. So have a think about your own values and see whether your values are reflecting your business and that they're going to be attracting the right types of customers that you're looking for. Tone of voice. So if you're going to be storytelling in your content, you need to be really clear about your voice and your personality as well. So what is the brand tone of voice and how do you communicate with your target audiences? So I'd consider how you do it now, and I'd consider whether or not that's actually attracting the right types of people, the right types of clients that you're looking for. So is your tone of voice and personality warm and friendly? Is it authoritative? Is it open? Is it playful? And the personality of your brand, how you come across, it's often a really good idea to think about your brand as a person. What sort of characteristics would they actually display? This is a model, it's a useful tool by Acres, and I don't think it should be used as gospel, but it should be used as a guide for your own brand personality. So you can do a quick Google search on Acres model, and that will throw up some different ideas for you just to have a look at your own branding and make sure that you feel that your personality and tone of voice is working for you in terms of the ideal clients that you're looking to talk to. The other element around brand strategy is audience personas. So don't know if any of you have done much around audience personas, but they're a really useful tool again, as they help to guide the type of content that your target audience would be interested in and the types of searches which your audiences are conducting. And that's the important piece around search engine optimization. So again, audience personas relate directly to keyword research. So I often say that it's a good idea to perhaps have 2 or 3 audience personas, depending on the type of business that you have. And you need to really understand who those audiences are. So they might be your you could look at your current clients, for instance, but also think about those ideal audiences too. So again, relating back to the questions that I asked you before, are you attracting the right type of people that you want to see? A note of caution here is that sometimes the current clients may not be your ideal clients. So the idea of audience personas is to create an ideal client, which is aspirational and that you can work towards. So before we jump more into SEO, let's just have a quick think about best practice around brand strategy and making sure that you have got your set objectives. So are you clear on your why and your purpose? This is really important for storytelling in your content. Have you got a concise vision and mission that all your team buy into, as do your clients? Are your brand values appropriate and unique? And have you defined that personality? Is your brand clearly positioned in the marketplace? So potential customers really know what to expect. And do you know your ideal target market? And lastly, once you've done your brand strategy, is your brand visual identity a clear representation of that strategy? So as a checklist, have a clear brand identity, know who your customers are, and have set objectives. I'm just going to pause there before we jump in to SEO and see if anyone's got any questions. I'm having a quick run through. I can see some Heather, yeah, Elaine, Kate, and Brendan. That's all okay. Cool. So let's just have a think about what customers are looking for in 2021. 2020 has been a watershed year for many, many reasons. And COVID-19 has certainly made us all think about how we conduct our lives, how we buy. And increasingly, customers want to buy and purchase and engage with businesses who are purpose-led, whose values match their own, who are actually doing good in the world. So they're looking for brands who can build trust and build that confidence, provide excellent customer service through empathy and purpose. And we want to see brands now surviving and thriving with those in mind. There's been changes in consumer behavior as well in terms of how they buy, which basically means search is absolutely crucial in terms of consumers researching and purchasing. Whichever route they are taking to find products and services to fit their needs or to fit their pains, they're looking for content which is going to answer their questions. And it's your goal to help them answer their questions through your content. So that could be through your website, it could be through third parties, it could be through things like Trustpilot, it could be reviews, it could be social media. There are so many different places that consumers are looking to answer their questions and decide how they're going to buy. So content itself, before we jump into the SEO, the sort of the keyword research side, can take lots of different forms. I think this is quite a useful model to understand the purchasing habits or the inquiry habits of customers. This is a typical sales funnel, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen, and the tofu relates to top of the funnel, we've got the middle of the funnel, and we've got the bottom of the funnel. And in terms of the different types of content, the content are doing different things. So the first piece obviously is around awareness. So things like blogs, social media updates, could be some blogs, articles, some primary research. That's people are looking for content like that in order to raise the awareness. The middle of the funnel is more about where people get to when they're trying to evaluate services or brands. And this leads into your lead generation. And then you've got the conversion type as well, which obviously links heavily to your website and making sure that that content is really, really addressing the questions your client is looking for. The one thing I'll keep reiterating as we go through is that your content has to be high quality. Google is scanning and searching for high quality content, which is answering people's questions. So why is this important? So content is important because, as I've alluded to, search engines and social media sites are constantly changing their algorithms. In many ways, they are pushing us to paid content. But as we know, customers are getting a lot more savvy and they want to know that they're buying from companies who are perhaps considerate of the environment, socially aware. This is why organic content is so important. And they want answers to their questions. So when it comes to search, the holy grail is absolutely about coming up number one, being featured in featured snippets, or at least appearing on that first page of Google. If you're not appearing on that first page of Google, you're basically not being found. And again, reiterating the point, this is where well-written content that matches what people are looking for will completely help you. So this is just a real quick example. I typed in, why do I need an accountant? And you'll see ads pop up, obviously, but I don't know about you, but I tend to skip right over the ads and go into the organic content. And the first piece of organic content I can see is a featured snippet, which answers my question of why do I need an accountant? That's the type of thing that you're trying to do with your content. And we'll get into that a little bit more. Okay, so I've talked about search a bit, and we have a term called search intent. So sometimes SEO, I think, can sound like a bit of a strange art form to people, but in essence, it is how you are going to be found. So if you bear in mind your brand, your why, your values, your target audience, and the pains that you're trying to actually solve when you're engaging in planning your SEO strategy, you need to also think about what people are searching for. So in the previous one, I was searching for why do I need an accountant? That is my search intent. So I was looking for information around my question. With search intent, it is about the purpose that sits behind every inquiry. So a consumer's search intent might be informational, might be navigational, commercial, or transactional. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about what they all mean. So informational intent is when a user like me looking for some information asks a question like, why do I need an accountant? What's the weather today? And instantly results come up. Navigational is when a searcher is perhaps looking for a specific website or app. So they might do some navigational searches around Facebook login, Amazon. They may know those brands. A commercial intent is when somebody is searching for a specific product but hasn't perhaps made a decision yet. So examples could be, what are the best SEO tools out there, for instance? What about the best DSLR camera? So all these are commercial searches when people are looking for something in particular. Transactional is when they've got an intent to buy. So they may have done their informational searches, they may have done some commercial searches, and now they've decided that, yes, I do want to buy that Canon DSL. So they will put in a search around Canon, where do I buy a Canon DSLR? So one of the pieces that I really want you to remember is that for SEO best practice, you really have to think about that search intent when creating content for your website. So again, here's the featured snippet. And I feel that the featured snippet is kind of the holy grail of where you want to go to when you're thinking about organic content. Does anybody have any questions to this point? Nope, I think we're all okay. As I keep saying, if you want to ask any questions, just shout up. So getting into the keywords, what are these keywords actually used for? They're used for an absolute array of different things, and they really are the foundation for marketing and comms. So for search engine optimization, they can be used for ranking in Google and other search engines, to grow your brand and to attract website visitors. Within social media, they can be used to uncover topics for discussion and engagement, which is really useful to try and find those audiences and those clients, customers that you're looking for. It's also useful to understand which hashtags to use, for instance. Content creation, the holy grail. Keywords are so important for you to be able to build that leadership and to build followers on a topic that is relatable to your business. It attracts inquiries and it attracts links, and it helps to build your own website authority as well. So there's lots of tools out there and preferences will be individual. I like to use Google Trends, Keyword Planner, which is Google, Answer the Public, and something called BuzzSumo. Now, some of these, like Google Trends, Keyword Planner, they're free. Some of them have got free elements to them. And some of them, once you've used them for a while, they do ask you to sort of upgrade. But there are so many different options out there, and it's just a case of trialing them and seeing what actually works for you. So I just pulled up, I don't know if anyone's used Google Trends before. I find it really, really useful. So for instance, I work in sustainable development, for instance. So I decided to do a search on Google Trends around sustainable development. And I was interested to know the difference between the amount of queries for that phrase in the UK and versus overseas, as our company works quite a lot in the African continent, for instance. So as you can see, the results are quite different. So the the blue is around sustainable development, and we've got corporate social responsibility, which is the green. So you can see in the worldwide, sustainable development is really popular search, whereas corporate social isn't. Yet in the UK, we have climate change, which is a really important search that's linked to sustainable development. So when I'm thinking about our own business and how we're going to attract consumers to us, if we're trying to attract UK SMEs, for instance, I probably want to be talking much more around climate change than I would around sustainable development. Does that make sense for everybody? Yeah, brilliant. Google itself is a really great tool. So this is, I just wanted to highlight people who ask. So when you're doing a search on any topic that relates to your own business, you will also see other questions that people ask as well. So these are really useful phrases that you can make a note of in order to build up your keyword plan. So again, this was an example around how to become a sustainable business. And it was interesting for me to see what other businesses are asking in terms of those questions. Be warned though, you can go down numerous rabbit holes, but I think it really is worth spending an afternoon doing this to get to grips with what's relevant for your business and to understand how people are searching. And you'll also see who of your competitors are actually popping up as well for those keywords that you think are important for yourself. I think the interesting thing around Google as well is not only do they have the featured snippets, people who ask, but they've also got some related searches as well. So it's well worth just making sure that you're looking right through the first page on Google to see all these bits. BuzzSumo is one of my favorites, to be honest. I think they have a lot of detail and a lot of data, which is incredibly useful. Now, these guys, it is paid for, but you can sign up for a free account. And I think you get it free for a month and about 100 searches. So my advice here would be that you commit a specific time frame to do your research and then sign up to a tool like BuzzSumo and some of the other ones. And they can really help you discover different topics around the keywords that you think are interesting, questions that people are asking. It also gives you content ideas, which is useful. You get an idea about the monthly search trends. If you're going to do pay per click, for instance, how much that possibly could cost you, and more of an understanding about the number of articles that are being published as well. So all this information really does help you when we get into the how of doing keyword research. It really does help you narrow down the words, the phrases that will be most beneficial for your own business. Okay, so getting into how to do it. So the best way really is to kick off the process to think about the topics that you want to rank for in terms of your business and put them into generic buckets. So you could come up with about 5 to 10 topic buckets that you think are important for your business in terms of your services or products. And then what you'll do with those topic buckets is come up with some specific words later down in the process. Now, I don't know if many of you blog regularly on your website, but if you are a regular blogger, the topics that you're blogging about are probably the topics that you'd want to go into your bucket. It's also think about when you're having sales conversations, what are the topics that are coming up from your clients? And importantly, also put yourself in the shoes of your buyer personas. So those audience personas, put yourself in their shoes, and what type of topics would your target audience, be searching to find your business? So once you have some topic buckets, so for instance, with SDG Changemakers, where we're about helping businesses become more sustainable, Topic buckets for me would be around climate change. We've already identified that. It would be about decent work for all. It would be about gender equality, for instance. So think about what relates to your businesses. Next, you need to then fill those buckets with keywords. Because it's, as I've already said, it's really important that you're ranking when it comes to search engine results. So because your target audience is probably conducting searches for these specific terms, if you do what I suggested with Google, with BuzzSumo, you can then see the ideas and the searches that people are actually wanting to come up with. The idea here, as I said, you will probably go down some rabbit holes, but it isn't to come up with your final list. It's just to basically brain dump as many keywords and phrases as you possibly can come up with that you think potential customers would use to search. Then you need to also think about the search intent. So while you may come up with some keywords that you think are important, you've got to remember that it's very easy to take those keywords for face value, but sometimes they can have different meanings. So when you're researching, I would also put in your keywords into Google and see what other searches are coming up. So the idea behind that is to make sure that the intent that you think of that phrase is actually working for you as a business. So for instance, you might put in something about how do I make cookies, for instance, and you actually are a cookie selling business. But if you put in how do I make cookies, then it's actually going to just throw up some recipes rather than purchasing opportunities. So really verify what that user intent is. And use those tools that we've already talked about, and just make sure that you are looking at it quite thoroughly. Next is about how do you then refine this list. So you might have up to 20 to 50 different phrases and words within each bucket, but you're not going to use all those. You've really got to refine it down. So in order to do that, one of the best things is to understand what Google is really looking for. So they're looking for relevance, authority, and volume. Now, as I mentioned, relevance, Google really does rank content for relevance. So this is where your concept to search intent comes in. And your content will only rank for a keyword if it meets those searchers' needs. So in addition, your content must be the best resource out there for the query as well. So that's why when you're doing your research, have a look at what other people are writing as well. And can you actually improve on that? The second one is authority. So Google is and will be going forward placing more weight on sources that deemed authoritative. So that's making sure that your full site is full of informational content and that you are earning social signals and backlinks. So that will be, we'll talk about backlinks later, but that's about making sure your content is appearing on other published sites as well. If you're not seen as authoritative, you're going to really struggle being ranked into Google's first page. And volume. So you'll remember the BuzzSumo slide that I showed you. That shows you the volume. Keyword Planner does the same. So you can see which keywords or phrases are coming up with big volumes. Now, the idea is not to go always with the biggest volumes. You've got to have a mix of how you're going to do that. And the volume is measured by monthly search volumes. So that's just really the number of times a keyword is searched by all audiences. And as I just mentioned about volume, you need to just think about if you've got the ability to compete against some of the bigger sites, perhaps in your sector. one good tip is checking out how your competitors are ranking for these keywords as well. So it might be that you choose certain keywords that your competitor is ranking really well for, but can you improve on that? It also might be that your competitors aren't ranking particularly well at all. So that's a great opportunity for you to create content around that particular subject. As I said, I use a mix of BuzzSumo, Google's Keyword Planner. I don't know if any of you use Google Keyword Planner. You'd need to set up an ads account, but you can turn off the example ad before you pay any money. And obviously Google Trends, it really does give you some great ideas about what's going on. So what I tend to do is in BuzzSumo and Keyword Planner, I get the search volumes and the traffic estimates for the keywords that I'm considering. And then I have a look at that in Google Trends as well, just to fill out any blanks. The good thing about Google Trends, though, is sometimes you might find a keyword that you think has got a low volume, but is really, really relevant to you. So let's take the UK market for me and sustainable business. So that's ranked really quite low at the moment. But I know when I look at Google Trends that the trend is increasing for people to look at that search. So try and use the Google Trend to work out if it's a trend that's coming or it's a trend that's gone. And then you might have some really quick wins on some of those phrases that you've already identified. And Google Trends will also will throw up other ideas around other phrases which perhaps link to your subject, but perhaps aren't, but perhaps are trending upwards at the moment, and perhaps though low volumes, they're worth more of your focus as you go forward. So the idea behind this part of the exercise is thus to cut down the amount of phrases and lists on your in your buckets. But please do have a mix of what they call head terms and long tail keywords in each bucket. So head terms are like, 2-3 words. Long tails are much more about phrases. So they're much more around the questions that people are asking. And it's certainly the questions are great in terms of writing blog posts, because you can really frame the search around what somebody is looking for that's got a high volume. Right, before I go on, has anyone got any questions about the theory? Is it all pretty clear? That's good. Okay, so some best practices then. You need to align your content with search intent. Please do that. Make sure that on page you're writing compelling title tags and meta descriptions. These are really important so that the title tags are those clickable links, those headlines that appear in the search results, and they are absolutely critical from an SEO perspective. So make sure you've got keywords in those title tags. Your meta descriptions are that brief summary of a page when it comes up on a results page. They don't have a huge impact in SEO, but they have a huge impact on whether or not potential customers are going to click into your content. So it's important that they are descriptive and tell the client exactly what you want to be looking for. Make sure that you're using internal linking. So that's literally linking between your pages. And as I've said, that you've got those keywords in your URL. We'll talk a little bit about optimizing pages and that page speed and how you can simply yourselves improve the user experience on your website as well. And we'll have a quick look at getting more authoritative backlinks and the importance of long form content. So I'm talking content here, which is over 2,500 words. Might sound daunting, but it's really important. So images, we all have beautiful images and customers appreciate gorgeous images as well. But these have got to be optimized. So there's a few things that you can do on your website. So we're thinking here about page speeds. So you can reduce the file sizes and you can implement something called lazy loading. Now, if you want to try lazy loading, I would talk to your web developer, because it's something your web developer would need to do. You need to make sure that you've got alt tags on all those pictures as well, so Google can actually read them and know what the picture's all about. And again, it helps the visually impaired. And select titles and files for your images that actually reflect what the image is all about and the keywords that you want to incorporate into your content. So we talked earlier about Google's page experience, and this all comes down to page speed and how quick your website's basically working. A really good tool is Google Search Console. So if you haven't found Google Search Console yet, I really do suggest you go and find it. And this is a way that you can submit sitemap to make sure that it's been ranked through Google. It's an excellent way to find any errors, any backlinks or pages that are producing errors. It also helps you to gain insights into the amount of back and internal links that you have on your website, and it helps you understand your clicks and your click-through rates. Really important that you add Google Search Console to your whole digital marketing so that you can keep an eye on what's going on. There are some other tools as well, such as Screaming Frog, SEMrush, and Bing. SEMrush is good in terms of there's quite a few freebie tools on there, but again, after you've used it for so long, they do want you to sign up. But have a look at those different options for you. So on-page optimization, so this is around user engagement. The content within your website needs to be drawing in the reader. So obviously you've got to get the readers, you've got to get your clients or your company to be found through the Google page rankings. Then you need to make sure that your potential customer is actually clicking on those links and coming through. Once they're through, you don't want them bouncing off. So you need to make sure that the page is really good in terms of drawing in the reader, and that they want to basically dwell on your website. So for on-page optimization, it's really important that if you're thinking about your content, that you're using really clear headlines that indicate the topic of each section within your website, that you're using bullets and lists, that you're actually incorporating video, and you've got really clear call to actions, as well as having a very clean and crisp layout. So this is to help the user want to engage with your own website, but it also helps Google as well scan the pages. So for instance, I think we'll go into headline tags as well. So with headers and subtitles, you've really got to make sure that you're utilizing the H1s and the H2 tags as well, because that's how Google will actually read your content on the site. Backlinks are very important, because again, that's establishing your website as being authoritative, so part of the EAT that we talked about earlier. So some easy things to do would be to look at getting your content featured on quality publishing sites regularly. Make sure that you are regularly publishing posts, and notify any websites that you mention, or any products or services, businesses that you're mentioning that are linked in your posts, and get them to share. Really great opportunity to find guest post opportunities. So I don't know if you're an accountant, if you're a self-help, if you're a careers consultant, anything like that, find other organizations that you could be guest posting for. Make sure that you're listening as well on social. So if your brand is mentioned anywhere, but it's not actually linked to, ask for a link back. So that's particularly around, people who are manufacturers, for instance, or product suppliers. If you've got raw materials within your supply chain, ask your supply chain partners to basically linking back to you. Harrow is a opportunity to find to be a reporter's source. It's picking up a lot of traction in terms of how to build backlinks. I work in PR, so I do use it. It might not always be part of what you'd want to do, but it's certainly a way to create authoritative backlinks, and that really extends as well to other journalist sites as well. Best of lists are a really easy one to feature your brand. So again, you know, best of gingerbread makers, for instance. If you're a gingerbread maker, you're not on the list. See if you can get yourself on the list. Be reviewed by websites who are reviewing your competitors. So if you're an electronics company selling the latest Canon DSLR, for instance, make sure your company's been reviewed. And importantly, is that creating leadership through your blogs and expert opinions in terms of your speciality and your experience. Podcasts are another great one. I don't know if many of you do podcasts, but I mean, appearing on podcasts with other companies, other businesses, really great idea. Now, I will say though that not all backlinks are created equally. Some backlinks will obviously boost your ranking, and I've tried to list them out here, but others can derail. So just be a little bit cautious about people offering you to go onto different directories and bits and pieces. They don't always help because they're not prioritized as authoritative backlinks. Local SEO. I would hope that most of you who are selling locally in your communities have got Google My Business up and sorted. Google My Business is brilliant for SEO, but you do need to make sure that you are keeping it updated. So a lot of your competitors will probably set up a page, then just completely forget about it. So do keep it updated with new posts, Q&As, make sure you're responding to any reviews, but also add pictures, photographs, etc., and upload any offers that you might be listing. But it certainly is, if you're selling locally, this is where you need to be, without a doubt. Tracking analytics. So this, often when we talk about tracking analytics, you know, people get a bit concerned with it or a bit frightened by it. But again, Google Analytics, brilliant. It should be attached to your website already. And it's a great opportunity to explore in order to find which of your content is performing at the moment, which are your top performing landing pages. So again, helps you decide, are those keywords working? So the one thing about keywords is they might change. So it's not just a one-off experience. You do need to keep revisiting it every so often. And if some of your landing pages aren't working for some reason, but they were brilliant 6 months ago, have a look at the content and consider rewriting them. You can use the content drill down report, and you can track the keywords in analytics as well. But also it's really useful to find any referral sites that are coming into you as well. So those referral sites around your backlinks are building up those relationships. And it might be that you've got some referral sites coming in that you don't have a relationship with. So it's an opportunity to actually pick that up with them. Keep your content fresh. Absolutely, content is king. So you can do as much keyword research and analysis as you want, but if your content isn't well written and quality, it's not going to do any good, unfortunately. So keep it fresh, on topic. And as I said before, long form content as well is really important. And when we talk about this, we are talking literally 3,000 words or more. So I'm not saying you need to write 1 or 2 pieces every week or every month, but you do need to make sure that you have some long form copy on there, which is well researched. Some research by Semrush suggested that long form articles are getting 3 times more traffic, 4 times more shares, and 3.5 times more backlinks than the average article, which is around 1,000, 1,500 words. It's important to make sure that you've got your keywords in your first paragraph, but please don't ever stuff keywords and phrases into your copy. Google just doesn't like it. That used to be a trick that was done many years ago, and Google's much more savvy to all that now. I also mentioned about H1 and H2 tags. So this is how search engines will crawl through your content, and it's about a hierarchy. So your H1 is your title, then you go H2, H3, H4, H5 in terms of your subtitles. And it makes it easy for content to be read if you've organized your text like that. The headers and subheadings also need to create those hints about what the material is within your content as well in the following paragraphs. So again, helping those search engines to understand and register what's important about that content. So final tip is educate yourself. There is so much information out there about SEO. It can feel overwhelming, but I think if you spend that time, that you can really learn an awful lot. If you're going to use professionals, make sure they really are experts. And I'd always recommend looking at the Chartered Institute of Marketing or Institute of PR. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely excellent, Claire. Thank you very much. Whilst you're thinking of your questions to ask Claire, because she will accept all questions, I'm going to launch the poll. For those of you that are new to our webinars, we launch a poll just to get feedback to see whether we're hitting the right topics in the right length of time, etc. But Claire would welcome any questions, so please do come back to us while I just launch the poll. I find SEO quite daunting, but I actually sat and listened to that and I found it really, really useful and really in depth for an hour's bite-sized information. Most of the people on the call are engaging with the Digital Tech Cumbria programme, but anybody that's not and wants to and has a business based in Cumbria, please just drop me a line. We send out the details with this when we release the webinar to you. So please do let us know if you've got any more questions. And I'll stop talking now so you can ask questions.
I dare someone to ask me a question.
Can't believe Brendan hasn't got a question.
Sorry. No, I'm fine today. That was good. That was really good. But I don't have any. We're already moving along with most of those sort of things. So I'm happy with what I've got. No questions.
Great stuff.
Yeah, and I think on that point, I think it is important to realise that if you just break it down into segments, that you can do it yourself in many ways. And I think it's important that you get that understanding for yourself too.
Any more? Got any questions out there from you guys? While you're completing the poll. So next week's webinar at the same time, same place, is create an effective lead generation plan. So please do join us. As I've already said, we record this and then we place it on our website. The webinars are open to all. So if you have colleagues, friends, other businesses that you think would find this very useful, please do share. We're more than happy for you to do that. And we hope that you will join us next week. But if you are happy to leave the meeting, please just go ahead and leave, and hopefully see you next week. Thank you.